You're standing on the first tee, driver in hand, and you watch a guy 20 years younger blow it 40 yards past you. You tell yourself it's just age. It isn't. For 9 seasons, I believed the same lie, and it cost me a garage full of expensive drivers and thousands of yards I will never get back. Here's the verdict. I wish someone had handed me a decade ago the driver most senior golfers are swinging right now is stealing between 18 and 30 yards a carry, and it has nothing to do with how old you are. It has everything to do with a spec buried on the sticker that nobody at the shop ever explained to me. And I know it steals those yards because I finally put my own slow, tired, 60-something swing on a launch monitor and watched the numbers in cold daylight. I'm going to rank the drivers I've owned and tested from the worst offenders to the ones that actually gave me my game back. And I'm going to end with the single cheapest fix. I found a change buried in a fitting report from a testing lab, a change I could have made 20 years ago for almost no money. That added more carry than any $400 driver head I ever bought. This is for the swing you have today, the one that turns over at 79 miles an hour on a good morning, not the swing you had at 35. Let me take you back to the range session that broke me. It was a cool April morning, and I brought 3 of my drivers to a shop with a real launch monitor. I hit my newest one, the one I'd paid $450 for the season before, convinced it was the best club I'd ever owned. My carry number came up 181 yards. I laughed, thought the machine was broken, and hit 10 more. It wasn't broken. So let me start at the bottom with the worst driver I ever put in my bag, because it's probably the exact type sitting in yours right now. The worst thing I ever did to my game was chase the driver the tour pros played. Years ago, I bought a low spin compact head driver because my favorite player won a major with it. It looked fast. It sounded like a rifle. It had a small, deep head and a shaft the salesman called Player's Flex, which I now know was a polite way of saying stiff enough to punish anyone under 90 miles an hour. That driver was engineered for a swing that delivers the club at 110 miles an hour or more. Mine delivers it at 78. Here's what that mismatch actually did. Measured. Low spin heads are designed to strip backspin off the ball because fast swingers create too much of it. They balloon the ball and lose distance. But a slow swing has the opposite problem. At 78 miles an hour, I wasn't making enough spin to keep the ball in the air. My launch was too low. My spin was down around 1,700 revolutions, and the ball fell out of the sky like a wounded duck. I needed around 2,500 to 3,000 revolutions to hold a proper flight. That low spin tour head was subtracting the exact thing my swing couldn't afford to lose. The carry cost was brutal. That driver carried me 181 yards. When I later hit a driver built for my speed on the same monitor, same balls, same morning, I carried 204. That's 23 yards gone because I bought a trophy instead of a tool. 23 yards is the difference between a 9-iron into the green and a 5-iron. It's the difference between reaching a par 4 in 2 and laying up short every single time. If you bought your driver because a professional endorsed it or because the head looks small and fast and serious, I need you to hear this without flinching. That club was almost certainly never tested at your speed. The marketing showed you a swing that isn't yours, but that low spin trophy driver wasn't even the most expensive mistake in my garage because the next one fooled me for far longer and hit its damage far better. The second worst driver I owned was the one with the wrong shaft, and the shaft is where they get almost every senior golfer. I want you to understand something. The industry does not advertise loudly. When you buy a driver off the rack, the head gets all the marketing and all your attention, but the shaft is doing more to determine your distance than the head ever will. And the standard shaft that comes in a box driver is built for a swing speed most senior golfers passed a long time ago. For years, I played a stiff shaft weighing 70 grams because a younger me played stiff, and my ego wouldn't let me drop down. Stiff Flex is generally built for swing speeds around 97 to 104 miles an hour. I was swinging 78 to 82. A shaft that's too stiff for your speed will not load and release properly. It stays passive through impact. It refuses to help you square the face, so you leak everything out to the right, and it delivers the head with less energy than a softer shaft would. I got fitted finally and switched to a regular flex shaft weighing 55 grams. The weight matters as much as the flex. That lighter shaft let me swing 3 to 4 miles an hour faster with zero extra effort, just because I wasn't fighting a fence post. 3 miles an hour of club head speed is worth roughly 6 to 9 yards a carry for a golfer in my range. And the softer tip helped the face square up, so my misses tightened from a 30-yard slice to a gentle fade. I could actually aim. Let me put a price on my stubbornness. That wrong shaft cost me somewhere around 10 to 15 yards a carry and a fairway I couldn't hit. I played it for the better part of 6 seasons. 6 seasons of wrong club into every green, 6 seasons of chipping out sideways, all to protect a word printed on a shaft that nobody but me ever read. Get the flex checked. If your swing speed with the driver is under 85 miles an hour and you're in anything stiffer than regular, you are very likely leaving yards on the table this weekend. But the shaft mistake taught me something bigger, something that reframes this entire ranking. Because once I understood that the head gets the glory while the shaft does the work, I started looking at what the heads were actually doing for a slow swing, and I found that most of the premium heads I'd paid top dollar for were designed around a number I'd never once been shown. That number is MOI, and misunderstanding it was my third mistake, though this one at least started pointing me toward the light. MOI stands for moment of inertia, and all it really means is how much the head resists twisting when you miss the center of the face. And here's the confession that stings, because as a senior golfer, I miss the center of the face far more often than I hit it. My tempo isn't what it was. My timing drifts. I catch it off the toe, off the heel, low on the face. For years, I played driver heads with low forgiveness because they were sleeker and I liked how they looked at address. Vanity, again. When I finally tested a high MOI head against my old sleek one, the difference wasn't on the perfect strikes. Those were about the same. The difference was on the misses, and I live on the misses. The regulatory ceiling for forgiveness sat around 10,000 for years, measured in a way where higher means more stable. When a driver arrived that finally reached that 10,000 mark of combined resistance to twisting, it was a genuine landmark for players like me. On my toe strikes, the forgiving head held ball speed within about 2 or 3 miles an hour of my best. My old low forgiveness head bled off 6 or 7 miles an hour on the same miss, plus it twisted the face open and sent the ball sailing right. Measured out my average drive, not my best drive, my average, the one that actually counts, over 18 holes climbed by about 12 to 14 yards just from playing a head that forgave my aging, inconsistent contact, and my dispersion, how far offline my misses scattered, tightened by nearly a third, 12 to 14 yards on average, and a third tighter. That's not a swing improvement. That's just refusing to let my own mishits punish me as hard. So the practical move is simple. As your swing gets less repeatable with age, your driver should get more forgiving, not sleeker. Chase the highest MOI head you can find, the biggest, most stable, most draw-friendly thing on the shelf, and swallow the vanity. Nobody in your foursome cares what your driver looks like at address. They care that you're in the fairway. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking right about now, because I thought it too. You're thinking, that's fine for a man ready to spend $500 on a new driver, but I already own my clubs, and I'm not about to replace the whole bag on the word of some fellow on the internet. Good. I'm glad you're skeptical, because the next part is the part I care about most, and it's built specifically for you, the golfer, who wants to fix this with what's already in the trunk. Here's the first thing you can do this weekend for nothing. Look at the loft on your driver head. A lot of you are playing 8.5 or 9 degrees of loft, because that's what real golfers played when we learned this game. And lower loft was supposed to mean longer. For a fast swing, sometimes. For your swing, it's a distance killer. I found on the monitor that my slow speed simply could not generate enough launch and spin with 9 degrees. The ball came off too flat, spun too little. Most modern drivers have an adjustable hosel, that little wrench that came in the box you probably threw in a drawer. Take that wrench and add loft. Turn your 9.5 degree setting up to 10.5 or 11. I did exactly this on a driver I already owned, and my launch angle came up about 1.5 degrees. My spin came up a few hundred revolutions into the range where the ball actually holds its flight, and I picked up around 8 yards of carry. From turning a wrench I already had on a club I already owned for $0. If you do only one thing from this entire video, go add loft tonight. Here's the second free fix, and this one shocked me. Move the weight. If your driver has a movable weight track all the way to the heel to the draw setting, we spend our whole lives terrified of the hook, so we never touch the draw setting. But most senior golfers fight a slice, a weak fade that leaks right and loses distance because the ball is glancing off an open face. Setting the head to draw bias helped my face square up at impact, turn my glancing blow into a fuller strike, and a ball that draws gently, carries farther, and rolls farther than one that fades weakly. That's several more yards, again, for nothing. And the third no-cost fix, grip down, choke down on the driver 1/2 inch to a full inch. I resisted this for years because it felt like I was giving up length and therefore distance. The opposite happened. Gripping down gave me more control of the club head. I found the center of the face more often, and center contact is worth more distance than raw shaft length ever gave me. We'll come back to that idea in a big way because it turned out to be the key to the whole thing. So before you spend a dime, you've got loft up, weight to draw, and a slight choke down. And if you want the complete picture behind all of this, I've pulled it together in one place. Everything in this video, every ranking, every launch number at every senior swing speed from 70 to 90 miles an hour, and the exact fitting checklist I now carry into every shop is laid out in full in my ebook, Drive More, Drive Deeper, Drive Longer, linked in the description below. It's the guide I wish someone had handed me a decade and thousands of dollars ago, written specifically for the golfer who is done being sold the wrong tool. If you've been nodding along this whole time, that book was written for you. Now, even with those 3 free fixes in your pocket, there was a ceiling I kept hitting, and breaking through it is where the real drivers separated the pretenders from the ones worth your money. Let me tell you about the best driver I ever tested for a senior swing and why it wins, because this is where the ranking turns from confession to redemption. The drivers that actually helped me all shared a set of traits that have nothing to do with which brand is loudest this season. They were light overall, often under 300 grams in total weight. They carried real loft, 10.5 degrees and up. They had that high forgiveness, the stable head that doesn't twist, and they came with a shaft matched to a slow swing, not a fast one. The category winners in recent seasons all follow this recipe. The big forgiving family drivers, the max models, the ones with the words like max and the 10 to 1,000 forgiveness rating, those are built for us, whether the marketing admits it or not. The lightweight, draw-biased models that the shop guys sometimes steer men away from because they seem too easy are exactly the point. Easy is what a 79-mile-an-hour swing needs. Easy is fast. When I finally played, a driver built entirely around my speed light, total weight, 11 degrees of loft, a 50-gram regular shaft, and a high MOI headset slightly draw. Here's what the monitor showed against that trophy driver I opened with. Ball speed up from about 118 to 126 miles an hour, launch up from 10 degrees to about 14, spin up into the 2,500 range where it belonged, and carry the number that broke my heart in April, went from 181 yards to 204.23 yards. On the same body, the same age, the same slow swing, on the same morning. I didn't get younger. I got fitted for the golfer I actually am instead of the one I used to be, and that is the whole redemption story in a single number. The yards weren't gone to age. They were locked inside the wrong equipment, and the right equipment gave them back. But here's where I have to name what really happened to me over those 9 seasons, because understanding it will save you from the same trap. It wasn't bad luck. Somebody profited every single time I made the wrong choice. And it's time we talked about who. Every spring, a new driver launches promising more distance than last year's. And the honest truth from independent robot testing is that year-over-year distance gains for the average golfer are tiny, often a yard or two, sometimes nothing at all, sometimes measurably slower. The USGA capped the trampoline effect of the driver face decades ago at a spring-like limit that every major driver already reaches. That means the face can only give the ball back so much energy, and that ceiling has been the same for years. The manufacturers know this. So they can't legally make the ball come off much faster. What they sell you instead is a new color, a new sound, a new story, and a professional's name. And here's the part that made me angry once I understood it. The premium new driver every season is aimed in its marketing at the fast-swinging young player because that's who makes the highlight reel. The versions that would actually help you and me, the higher lofts, the lighter shafts, the draw settings, those exist, but they're pushed to the side, sometimes called senior or light, in a way that quietly embarrasses men into avoiding them. I skipped the club that would have helped me for years because I didn't want the word senior on my shaft. The upsell isn't just the price. The upsell is your pride, and they know exactly how to work it. The person who profited from my mistake was counting on me buying with my ego instead of my launch numbers. Counting on me never putting the club on a monitor at my real speed. Counting on me replacing a driver every 2 seasons, chasing a yard that the rules of golf physically prevent them from giving me. Once I saw the game, I couldn't unsee it, and it led me straight to the discovery that changed everything, the secret finale I promised you at the start. Here it is, and I want you to sit with this one because it is the cheapest, most powerful fix I have ever found, and almost nobody is telling seniors about it. It came out of a fitting report and a set of lab measurements on shaft length, and it flips everything we were taught upside down. The standard driver sold today has a shaft around 45.5 to 46 inches long. It's built long on purpose because a longer shaft creates a wider arc and, in theory, more clubhead speed and speed sells. But here's what the testing actually shows for real golfers, and especially for slower, less repeatable senior swings. That extra length does almost nothing for your speed, and it destroys your contact. The longer the shaft, the harder it is to return the center of the face to the ball. And center contact is the single biggest driver of distance there is. Independent testing has found that most golfers gain little to no clubhead speed from that extra 1.5 inches of length, while their strike location scatters badly across the face. When researchers measured it, cutting the driver down to around 44 inches barely changed swing speed, often less than 1 mile an hour, but it dramatically tightened where the ball met the face. And because a shot struck on the center delivers far more energy than one struck off the toe or heel, the shorter shaft produced more real-world distance and far straighter shots, even though the theory says a longer club should be faster. Let me tell you what happened when I did it. I had my driver cut down from 45.5 inches to 44.5. 1 inch, the cost was almost nothing, a few dollars to have it trimmed and regripped. My clubhead speed dropped by less than 1 mile an hour, so small I couldn't feel it. But my center face contact went from a scatter chart all over the face to a tight cluster right in the sweet spot. My ball speed on average actually went up because I was finding the center. My carry improved by about 9 to 11 yards on my average drive, and my fairways hitting around jumped dramatically. A shorter driver, the thing every instinct tells you should be shorter and therefore weaker, made me longer and straighter at the same time. That's the secret they will never put on a billboard. You cannot sell a man more distance by handing him a shorter club. It doesn't fit the story. But the physics of contact don't care about the story. For a senior golfer whose timing wanders, a driver an inch shorter is very likely the single best distance and accuracy upgrade available, and it costs the price of a decent lunch. Choke down first this weekend to feel it for free, and if the ball flies straighter and finds the center, get the shaft trimmed for keeps. So let me put the whole ranking back together for you now, from the worst mistake to the redemption, so you know exactly where you stand. At the very bottom, the trophy driver, the low spin, small-headed tour professionals club that was never built for your speed and quietly cost you north of 20 yards. Just above it, the wrong shaft, too stiff, too heavy, refusing to load, bleeding you 10 to 15 yards in every fairway on the right. Then the low forgiveness head that punishes the mishits you live on, costing your average drive 12 to 14 yards. Climbing up toward the good. The free fixes on the club you already own, loft up, weight to draw, choke down worth close to 15 yards for nothing. Higher still, the driver built honestly for a slow swing light, lofted, forgiving, correctly shafted worth those full 23 yards back. And at the very top, the crowning fix, the shorter shaft that trades a fraction of a mile an hour you'll never miss for a center face strike that returns 9, 10, 11 yards and puts you back in the short grass. I want to be honest with you about the arc of all this because it's the arc of my whole golfing life these last 10 years. I made every one of these mistakes. I bought the pride and skipped the performance. I let the word on the shaft matter more than the number on the monitor. The truth about my lost distance was buried under a decade of marketing that showed me a younger man's swing and told me to blame my age. It took a cold April morning and an honest launch monitor to uncover it. And now that I've handed it to you, you're free of it in a way it took me 9 seasons and thousands of wasted dollars to earn. You didn't lose those yards to your birthday. You lost them to a club that was built for somebody else. That's the feeling I want you to walk off that first tee with. Not that you're too old, but that you were sold the wrong tool and you finally know it. You're not a golfer in decline. You're a golfer who's been playing equipment aimed at a stranger, and the moment you fix that, the yards come home. You're the kind of player who refuses to keep paying for the same mistakes season after season, or you wouldn't have watched this whole thing. So tell me one thing down in the comments and be specific because I read them and I answer them. What driver is in your bag right now and what loft is it set to? If it's under 10.5 degrees, you and I need to have a conversation and I'll tell you straight what I'd change first. Tell me the club, tell me the loft, and tell me your best guess at your swing speed. That's the fastest way I can help you find your own lost yards. If you want the full breakdown, every driver ranked, the exact launch numbers at every senior swing speed from 70 to 90 miles an hour, and the fitting checklist I now take to every shop so I never get upsold again. I've put all of it in the ebook link below. It's the guide I wish somebody had handed me a decade and thousands of dollars ago. And if you're done losing yards quietly, done overpaying every spring for a color change and a new story, then come join the rest of us who've decided to play smart instead of proud. Subscribe and stand with the senior golfers who refuse to be sold their own age back to them at $400 a club. Because next time I'm opening up the golf ball and I'm going to show you the $2 difference in construction that's costing slower swings, more spin, and more distance than any driver on this list, and why the premium tour ball in your bag might be the very thing holding your short game hostage. You will not want to miss that one. You saw the rankings, but the deeper story lives inside the Senior Fairway Club, where I pick up right where this video stopped. In there, you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. And you won't be alone. Senior golfers like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime. No risk. If this helped you find the right driver, why not subscribe and stay with me? I have plenty more videos right here made just for senior golfers like you with more on the way.